Welcome to the Guardrail Podcast. This is a podcast about what it looks like when you ask God to give you eyes to see and ears to hear. We describe all the many things God has shown us as we have pursued a deeper walk with Him. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Fa. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome to the podcast.
The Guardrail Podcast.
Yeah. Welcome to New England. Cold, rainy.
No, listen, we had one day of summer, and now it's back to the usual miserable.
It's been nice, though. By this time, I think we're like freezing, right?
I don't know anymore. I don't know what's normal anymore.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, not even like snow. We don't get a lot of snow anymore.
I think it just depends on what kind of winter we have. Sometimes we have a lot of snow, and then at times we just don't.
Yeah. Well, the last time we had a lot of snow was 2015. That broke the record. And then after that, it was just like no snow.
I remember 2015 because we lived in an apartment in Fall River, and parking when it snows is something out of the pits
I remember
of hell.
shoveling for 3 hours. And the next day, I could not walk.
I remember people fighting over parking spots and leaving chairs out there in their spot that they that they carved out. And yeah,
Good times.
it was
in Fall
good.
River.
It was fun. It's fun there.
Now I have a snow blower, and like I've used it once or twice.
Yeah, it's true.
I've
We've
had
really
it for
not
like
used
3
it much.
years, 3-4 years.
We did, however, carve out a pathway to the hot tub.
Oh
When that
yeah,
last really big
yeah.
snowfall.
We had one big storm here. That's
yeah.
it.
So there's only so many things you can.
You know what's funny? Now
Snow
we
blower
have
around
like all-wheel drive cars, snow blowers,
Yep.
driveway, and like it's not snowing anymore. Like we're prepared for it.
Yeah.
It doesn't snow.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but I'm okay with that. I don't like snow.
Yeah, I like global warming. Global warming, I like it.
Well, we don't call it that anymore. That's
Climate change.
Yeah.
I am all for climate change.
Are you? Let's change the climate.
Climate sucked.
Let's change it to what I like,
Yeah.
which is warm and tropical. If we're changing.
We did have a crappy summer, though.
I didn't. Mine
It
was good.
rained
Yeah.
all the time on the weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't remember that because maybe it was the weekends.
'cause you work.
I feel like the weekends that I was working, it was raining, and the weekends that I was off, it was good for me.
No.
No,
It was like,
I don't remember.
it rained like 16 out of like 20 weekends or something like that. We had like 3 or 4 good weekends.
Yeah, it's garbage.
It's garbage.
Yeah, what can you do? But now we're in the midst of fall, and we had one 80-degree day.
Yeah, that was so
It was
nice.
great. And now it's back to cold, rainy weather.
Yeah, and we still complain though because I was out there doing stuff Saturday and I was like, oh, it's too hot. you know?
Complain. I never complain about being hot. I am constantly cold, and I am interested only in being warm.
Well, yeah.
And so when I have the warmth, I'm grateful.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, what do we want to talk about today, Fa?
There's a couple of things I have off the top of my head. And then we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
Let's start with yesterday I was praying and you know when you're praying and you go on like this, I want to say a rant, but it's not a rant. Like you just start preaching in your head.
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot. And I'm
Does
like,
it?
why doesn't that happen to me when I'm like recording a podcast or something?
Go on like some kind of...
You know, it's funny. As I was praying, so yesterday I had a really good time praying. And as I was praying, I was like, oh, this is good stuff. I thought about, it's like, oh, you should, bless you.
Thank you.
It's like, oh, you know, I could put this on a podcast. But I felt bad because it was like the first thing I thought about. I was like, I don't want to spend time with God just to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Anyways, you know when you're in church, and this doesn't apply to you because...
I don't go to church.
No, because you're very extroverted, and...
Am I, though?
During worship, you're up front dancing and like...
Yeah, right.
singing and waving flags in front of people.
Yes, that sounds exactly like me. I've been known to dance
This doesn't apply to you. So it doesn't apply to you.
with streamers.
You know, you got Latin blood, so you want to dance, you want to shake it all the time. Know what I'm saying?
Whoa. Okay. This is PG.
You got that rhythm that doesn't stop within you.
What is your point?
The oddest thing yesterday, I was praying and I was thinking about people that are in church and they don't show that, outward worship or whatever. They're just stoic. Mm-hmm. They'll raise their arms maybe a little bit, and I'm talking about, like that kind of people.
Yes.
Like me, basically me.
You.
If worship is really slapping real hard.
Yeah.
the most I do is like I sway.
Oh wow.
Back and forth. And keep in mind, I am Latin. I should be like,
I don't know.
and I don't, because I'm also
like you if you were.
I know, because I'm also half German, so I don't move much.
I would not. First off, just to take a minute here to explain. I don't like to correct what you just heard because it's incorrect about me. I do not like any kind of attention on me at all. And if you brought attention to me, I would be very upset.
Yeah.
And move away from you.
So it's funny you said that, because the only time I would break out the dancing is if you're with me and I want to embarrass you, because I know I know it hurts you a lot.
Yeah, it really does.
Embarrassing.
Something happens inside me
and
when you do something.
And I want to just like embarrass you, and I'll start dancing.
Sometimes Fa is he's odd. So sometimes Fa will start dancing in public.
To embarrass you.
Yeah. Or he'll like yell things like he's some kind of, I don't know, special needs kid or something. Like, and I really hate it a lot.
That's funny.
And it's meant to torture me. So
yeah, I was thinking about that, and you made me lose my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with it. So
all right, well, you were in worship. The most you do is sway back and forth.
Yeah, I was thinking about you say you don't like attention to you, yet you're like a worship leader and stuff.
Yeah, well, it's not attention to me,
but anyways,
it's attention to Jesus.
I was thinking about how some people don't engage that way, and how we have an enemy, and the enemy likes to accuse people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, to all my people out there that don't like dancing and showing a lot of moves when there's worship or lifting up hands and stuff. Yeah. If you ever felt like the enemy attacked you or made you feel less than other people, I want to encourage you, because God doesn't see you that way. He knows how you are, right? He knows you're not going to break out dancing in front of people. You're not going to just, he knows you're, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he knows your identity. Like, he knows how you are on the inside. So he knows that you're not going to start dancing, right? Mm-hmm. There's a word for it.
I don't know.
Like when a child is different than the other child, like...
Unique?
No. It's not uniqueness. It's how they're wired and stuff.
Characteristics?
Character. So God knows your character, right? Mm-hmm. He knows you're not about to start dancing. You could be in a bar, or you could be in a club, and you wouldn't dance. You know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't dance. You wouldn't dance in the bar. You wouldn't dance in the church. So I was just thinking about that, and that, like, it was so weird, because I started praying, and I immediately thought about that, like, people that don't express themselves like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I bet the enemy tries to make them feel small. And what I was thinking about is, like, for a person that doesn't like to express themselves with their bodies, lifting up their hands is a greater sacrifice than for some people to go up to the front of the church and start dancing. You know what I mean? Like, because they're wired that way. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So some people, if this is it, this is you, don't feel shame anymore, because you don't need to look like other people when you're worshiping. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to worship in spirit and truth. And I hate to say your truth, because people use that a lot nowadays.
Right.
But your true self is a person that doesn't dance, and a person that doesn't express worship with their hands or their parts and stuff. So if you want to do that, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But don't feel small because you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? What something else that I thought about too is like, I don't like doing that, and it's uncharacteristic for me because I'm Brazilian. And Brazilian and Latin people, you know how it is, right? They like to dance, they like to move or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In Brazil, there's carnival. You know what carnival is?
Yes.
Do you know what it means? You know what the word carnival is? Carnival is a party of the flesh. It's what that means. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, people say, oh, you know, here in the U.S., like, oh, people are out there dancing half naked. In Brazil, during Carnival, on TV, you will see naked people. You know what I mean? Like, there's naked women on primetime TV dancing during Carnival, and it's, like, totally normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe they just have a little bit of painting on their body or whatever. And growing up, like, I hated Carnival so bad. Most Christians do. It's like an awful time because the TV stops like showing all programming, and because you have like 2 or 3 channels, all they show is the Carnival all the time. Anyways, it's also like a good reason why churches go on retreat during that time. You know what I mean? And it's a whole week of people just dancing and doing whatever they want on the streets, and there's parties in like every city, and you know, drugs, alcohol, and all that stuff. So Carnival is like awful. And you know what I mean? Like, and I've always felt like I don't fit with that. I don't want to dance. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Our culture is like so weird, and it's so ingrained into like people that a lot of people, when they convert to, you know, Christianity or whatever, they don't stop the dancing thing. They you know, they're always like, they want to express themselves with their body and stuff. And I'm not like that. And for a long time, I did feel bad about it. You know what I mean? Because people are expressing themselves doing this and that. But now I just feel like I don't have to anymore feel bad about that. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that God knows who you are, and He knows you wouldn't do that. That's not how you express your love to Him. That's not how you express your worship to Him. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
You remember when the woman at the well, it was like, oh, how should we worship? And God's like, you should worship in spirit and truth or whatever.
Yeah.
The truth part is admitting who you are. And if you're not a person that, you know, expresses themselves that way, you don't need to fake it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what I was thinking about yesterday. Don't feel bad if you don't. If you don't do those things. Something else that...
Wait. So, okay. So are you often feeling bad in worship because
I don't
do that stuff?
I don't feel bad often, but I can see, and I felt that yesterday, when the devil could use something that you are to make you feel less than other people. Mm-hmm. But other people are made that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're not made that way. So if you compare yourself to other people, you're going to fall short.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay. So here's the thing. I think that a lot of times we are pressured in a church setting to behave a certain way.
Yeah.
So like, say for instance, this will go either way, mind you. So maybe you're maybe, I don't know, maybe you're going to a specific kind of church where like you don't lift your hands.
Oh yeah.
And you don't dance. That's definitely like from the devil, apparently, according to some people. And so like that wouldn't even be, you wouldn't be doing that. But say you're in that kind of church and you want to dance and you want to show God like with your body, like how much you love God and how much, because you like, sometimes you get overwhelmed. Like I don't really, I mean, there are times I'm not a dancer per se, but I will, like if I'm at the point where I'm like, oh yeah, so like I need to like I'm overwhelmed. Like I don't even know how to explain what happens. Basically, it's like, oh no, I'm not jumping up and down because like I want attention or I like everyone else is doing it, so I'm doing it because like I cannot contain myself because I'm so overwhelmed in God's presence. So I'll like react that way. And that doesn't happen, unfortunately, every time I go to church, but it does happen. So what do you say to the people who, what I'm seeing is like, this can go either way, wherein like, you know, you're in a church setting and it's not something people do, but you feel like, I want to jump, I want to dance, you know.
Be ready to be criticized. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm trying to say this is that it goes both ways, because you not doing it is also not being worshipful in spirit and in truth, because the truth of it is that you want to worship God with everything, physically and spiritually, and you're not doing that. And then, I don't know, does that make sense?
It does make sense. Well, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Kind of, yeah. Well, not really. I mean, like, what I'm trying to say is that we all conform to what crowd we're in. You know what I mean? And like a lot of times, I think people raise their hands and worship like that because everybody else is doing it. Yeah. You know, and I don't think that God really appreciates that kind of worship.
But this is a call to my fellow non-dancing white man that feel
white man.
Yeah, because the people that don't dance is the white people.
That's not true.
Most other people in other cultures are like, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about the stoic German people out there that don't dance much, that don't show expression. You know, my Finnish people, all the people that don't really show a lot of emotion, don't feel bad ever. There's something else I was going to say with that too.
Wait.
Yeah, if you find yourself in a place where you can't do either, lift your hands to worship or not lift your hands to worship and be scrutinized for that, you better look for a place where there's freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Because
if the Lord is truly in a church, you know, there's freedom and you should be able to worship freely. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So fun story about you is that I often was upset with you when I would lead worship, because you look like you're thinking about, like, I don't know, the metric system. Like, you're so uninterested. Like, you're like you have no expression. When I'm leading worship and I look at you, it's so disheartening. I was like, my own husband doesn't even engage when I'm worshiping. Like, it's so bad.
Well, that's you're wrong, because worship slaps real hard.
Literally, you're like looking around the room, like distracted, like a butterfly goes on. And you look. Well, around, look
distracted, but what you learn is on the inside. It's not. It doesn't feel that way.
And that's the good point is that, like, you know, I don't know, people worship however is authentically to you, like, and it's like you don't really express yourself, but doesn't mean you're not worshiping. And worship can look like, and you can lay down and worship, you could freaking, you know, be jumping up and down, you can be your eyes closed, your eyes open, no facial expression, you could be singing, you could be not. And if you're worshiping God and you're engaged with God, you're engaged with God. And I always have a problem with worship leaders that are like, raise your hand, you know, like lift up your hands. I'm like, often I would be defiant and not do it just because they told me to do it, which isn't right either, but it's just kind of...
One thing I can say about that is I did come from a church where you did not lift your hands. You did not clap. You did not dance, sway. You know what I'm saying? Like, you stood there and you sang and you're done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to have a pastor that say, lift your hands, you know, do this and that, clap, that was something that, you know, taught me how to worship and also taught me how to break free from that. So there is something to that.
I don't like it. I don't agree.
I know you don't.
Because who says that's worshiping? Like, you can lift your hands and it's not really...
Yeah.
It means nothing.
But here's the thing.
I'm not a fan of that stuff.
But some people want to lift their hands and they can't. So when somebody that's leading gives you the go ahead to do so, the freedom to do so, you can go ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay. So likely, if you want to raise your hand and the worship leader's like, everybody raise your hand. It's okay to raise your hand. Like, it's the understanding in that room. Yeah, but like, everyone can do this. But what you lack is courage to overcome whatever fear you got going on. That's what that is. And that I feel like that when you are able to overcome your fears. No one can do that for you. And then the next time when the worship leader's like, no, didn't say that, raise your hand. Then what are you going to do? You know?
Let me throw a scenario to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a church.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No one raises their hands ever. All of a sudden, God starts moving in your church. There's a revival starting.
Yeah.
I'm okay with someone saying, lift your hands or whatever, because sometimes worship leaders will address what's in the room, and what's in the room is people want to lift up their hands, but they don't because they're taught not to. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm okay with a period of time where a worship leader is encouraging people to do things that they never done before because God is moving in their church for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, as far as
I understand what you're saying. You don't want a worship leader to tell you what to do all the time. But
No, that's not what I mean. There's two different scenarios here going on. If the Holy Spirit's like prompting that worship leader to like, hey, say something to make these people engage because they need some help, that's one thing. But half the time it hasn't. I'll be kind of a jerk in a moment. Half the time I think it's just the worship leader wants to feel good about what they're doing. I don't think that it's really necessarily the Holy Spirit.
I never led worship.
I don't know. I just think sometimes I think I've seen worship leaders get upset with a congregation for not engaging and like kind of, I don't know, like why don't you lift your hands? This is God's in the room. Would you blah blah blah? I've seen that multiple times, and that's not the Holy Spirit. That's your flesh. You need to get over yourself. Yeah,
I'm not talking about that.
But I am. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. And I honestly think there's something to it when you're like, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like, I'm just not big on the peer pressure stuff. And even like, because we've all been bullied by, spiritual leaders before about reacting or responding, even if it's within good intentions. But it's like, you can't make people respond to God. You can't make people understand God's presence. Like, that's something they have to choose for themselves. This is like going up to the altar, like the altar calls. It's like, there are people who know they want to go up to the altar, so they have to make a decision. Like, are they going to be brave enough to go up there or not? And I just don't think that... I think when they choose to respond on their own, I think that's when it matters the most, I guess, when it sticks. I don't know.
Both things are true.
Yeah.
Some people need to push.
I don't know.
Some people are pushing too much.
No, I don't think people... I don't know. I can go on for a while about this. It's like, what do these people need to push? Like, if it's not legit, if it's not happening for them, they're not feeling it, then they're not feeling it. Like, I don't know.
No, what I'm saying is they are feeling it. They just are scared.
Then
what
it's
I'm saying?
Okay.
That's what I've been telling you the whole time.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying is like, okay, if they're too scared to raise their hand, then they're going to go home and say, you know what, I should have done that. Next time, they'll do it.
Yeah.
What else did you want to talk about?
A while ago I was praying, and I saw a person who's a minister. And what I saw was that person's shoulder was cracking, and it had sores, and you could see flesh on their shoulders. Mm-hmm. Do you remember when I told you this? No.
I don't know.
It was a long time ago, but I was reminded of it this week. And what the Lord told me about that person was that, like, sometimes we try to carry things on our own when you're a minister, right?
Yeah.
When you're leading a church.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up getting hurt, and our shoulders hurt because we're carrying stuff we're not supposed to carry.
Yeah.
But, that's, 90% of pastors out there, 90% of people in ministry are suffering and carrying things that they're not supposed to be carrying.
Yeah.
That day I saw God like rubbing ointment on that person. I thought that was a cool vision that I had. And, man, it's just, I can see now how you can end up as a pastor in that spot. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere along the line, things didn't go well. Maybe God changed directions and you didn't recognize it. And then you ended up in a place where, like, you're just doing all the work. You're working for God instead of working with God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Man, when we're in Tennessee and we're in a room full of, like, pastors and stuff, you can just feel that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, pastors are hurting so bad, and so many people in that room are like, I'm about to close my church because I can't. Like, you just can't anymore.
Yeah.
That's right, you can't. You're not supposed to. It's not supposed to be you carrying anything, you know? We're supposed to live off of what Jesus conquered for us, and we're just supposed to follow him, you know? We're not supposed to carry anything. We're not supposed of course, we have responsibilities, and we have things that, you know, you need to take care of, but if you're a pastor out there and you're at your end and you're about to give up, just give up. Put things down. You know what I'm saying? Like, give that burden to Jesus. It's not yours to carry. It's something of a violation when you try to carry things that you're not supposed to carry. You know what I'm saying? You're never gonna win. You're never gonna make it. You may have held it together for a while, but it's just, the end isn't good. You know what I'm saying? So many people give up. So many people just get burnt out because of it. And I get it. Like, if I'm thinking about people who are sick, right? When you have an illness that is chronic or whatever, it comes to a point where the illness is like a part of you and you don't know how to separate yourself from it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, even if you have the opportunity to try something new or surgery or something like that, there's like a pushback from you because you've lived with that illness for so long that you don't know how to like separate yourself from it anymore. You don't know how to let go. I think the ministry is the same thing. Like, you've done things a certain way for so long, they don't work, but you're still barely making it. And there's that reluctance to let go and let just God deal with things. You know what I mean? Like, you've lost all your trust and stuff. If you're out there and that's you, just next time you go into prayer, just put those things down. You know, let God like handle it. Let God take care of it. Number one's gonna like feel so great, and he can't do anything until you give those things up to him. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, as long as you keep trying to do things yourself, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail.
But what does that look like? I mean, okay, so you have these pastors who, you know, this is their livelihood. This is how they eat. You know, there's no people that come to their church.
No, I'm not saying
their church doesn't thrive.
Yeah.
You know, they know that they were called to ministry, but their ministry looks not what they thought it would be.
I'm not saying
they're out there hustling, you know, trying to make things happen.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'm not saying give up on your ministry. I'm saying give up on trying to do things yourself.
No, I know you're not saying that, but I'm asking you, what does that look like?
I don't know. Only you and God can know those things. You know what I mean? Like, only you and God know what are the things that you're trying to hold on to when God's just like, let go. You need to let go. I think a lot of people, this kind of ties in with the first thing I said. I think a lot of people don't face the truth. You know what I mean? Like, you're lying to yourself. If you're thinking you can handle this ministry by yourself, you need to just be able to humble yourself and say, I can't. If you don't lead this, I can't.
Right.
If you're not looking to God to see what the next move is, there's not going to be one. And you can there are places where a church will survive if you're trying to just do the work, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like places like New England, it just doesn't. Because churches just close here all the time. I've been to like so many churches now that don't like exist anymore. You know what I mean?
I know.
Where pastors just like, I'm done, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Things don't work up here or whatever. They may not be as easy as, you know, in other places or in Brazil. Like in Brazil, you open a church, it's like your church is full. You know what I mean? Like,
right, yeah.
But up here, you can't fake it. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not the real thing here, it doesn't.
That's true.
Thrive.
I'll tell you one thing about New Englanders is that they don't like the fake nonsense. Like, you won't get very far not being authentic.
I'm not saying that churches are fake, and you know what I'm saying, it's just like, I don't know.
I would like to know what that looks like, though. I would like to know what you mean, because there are plenty of people who they feel like God has called them here or wherever, and God told them to do this, right? And so that's what they keep doing until it doesn't work anymore, and now they're not sure, like, what to do.
I feel like for some people, I don't know about you, but I think church to me 10 years ago and church to me now are like almost two different churches. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it in a bad way. I don't want to say that the church evolved either. I just want to say that I think the church woke up more, and I think that nowadays we're seeking God more. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things out there that are their whole focus and their whole attention is people, right? Mm-hmm. Not in a good way, in a bad way. They want to be entertained. They want to go to a church where things are just ready for them. You know what I mean? Like, they just want to consume. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think the church now is getting into a season where they're going to work with God, and they're going to seek God first, and they're going to put themselves second. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of churches out there are still in that old wineskin trying to make things happen, and it's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will say things like, oh, this isn't how God did it back in my day or whatever. Mm-hmm. But God doesn't, I know he's the same, but he does new things. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It reminds me of like Israel, because Israel was used to relating to God one way, seeing God one way, and when Jesus came, they completely missed it because mm-hmm. they were stuck in their ways. You know what I mean? They're stuck in their religion. And it's the same thing nowadays. Like, God is doing something new. A lot of people can't see it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. A lot of people choose not to see it.
Every podcast I drop my phone.
Yeah. You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, I think the key is that I think a lot of times people get caught up on the vision and not on Jesus, on their calling and not Jesus. So, like, people are called, right? Like, we're called. And, like, I think a big thing of the 90s and, like, the early 2000s was, like, okay, what's your vision? What's your, everyone had on their website, like, their vision, and, like, they're, we're called to the community, we're called to this, that, or whatever, right? And that was, like, a big thing, and that still kind of is, but I think we're coming out of a season of that, and where that's not, like, God's like, whoa, wait a minute. Because, like any good thing, people get extreme with it. So, okay, so people get caught up in being like, oh, I'm called to, the homeless, right? And so, like, their whole thing is, like, the homeless and, blah, 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 which is great, fine. And then people go like, oh, I'm called to, this type of ministry. And these certain pastors will move to different areas because, like, we're called to bring revival here, or we're called to do this and that, right? But that's not actually true. And we're never really called to a thing. We're always called to Jesus. Yeah. Like, he's always the focus. So here's the point, is that the Revelation talks about how, like, hey, behold, I'm doing a new thing, right? Yeah. And what does Paul say? He's like, hey, pick up your cross and follow, right? And like, die to self daily, right? Yeah. This whole thing, right? So you can't do that if you are called to a thing. You're following a thing, you're looking to a thing. The thing is your purpose. Yeah. The homeless, I'm called to the homeless. So all you care about is the homeless. And you end up taking your eyes off of Jesus and looking to your calling, right? Yeah. But if Jesus is your calling, then your eyes are directed towards Jesus. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this plenty of times about putting our eyes on Jesus, because we'll miss what he's doing because he's constantly moving. Yeah. So if he's doing a new thing, and if he's always moving, and our goal always, every single day, is to, pick up our cross and follow him, we're not really called to anything except for him, right? Yeah, that's true. We're called only to him. But what happens is that people get a vision, or they get a calling, or they get a promise, right? It's like with Abraham and Isaac. I'm like, think of this like as you're talking about this. It's like, okay, Abraham said, or God said to Abraham, hey, like, I'm going to give you a son, right? So then Abraham's waiting for the son. Finally, that happens. Isaac's here. And then, God's like, okay, go sacrifice Isaac. And then Abraham's like, cool, I'm going to go do that. And they go up the mountain and do the whole thing. And like, here's where people get stuck. It's like you stop following God's voice and you get focused on what he said to do.
The task, yeah.
Yeah. So like people are out there sacrificing their Isaacs, and because they just have lost sight of God and they've lost his voice. So it's like, yeah, cool. You were called to the homeless back in the 90s, but what is God telling you he's doing now? So like when your mindset is not, I'm called to a thing, I'm called to God, that means that you have to every single day be looking to Jesus, be hearing him because he's doing something new. He's doing something.
Yeah.
And that way you don't miss the lamb that he brings instead of killing Isaac. It's like God's doing something.
Yeah.
But we get lost and we get our eyes off of Jesus, and that is where the problem is.
Yeah. People also make their ministry their idol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where they miss it. Like, just yesterday I was listening to that girl, Stephanie Gretsch, whatever her name is. She was just saying how, maybe you were called to lead worship and it started out well, but then your life became about the worship and and you're looking for the applause, and you're no longer worshiping out of the overflow that you have from Jesus. You're just doing the worship, and then you look at the people and the people aren't responding, and then you go home empty every time. And then those are the people that leave church because they started out okay, there was a calling there, but the calling became everything and Jesus became second.
Yeah, exactly.
And that will get you every time.
Yeah.
Making an idol out of like your calling will get you.
Well, because Jesus isn't doing that, right? So say like, you talk about the person that you saw had like a ripped up shoulder and crap. Like, when did they decide to start doing the motions of getting that ripped up lifting? When did they decide to start lifting? Well, when they noticed that God wasn't doing it anymore, they had to take over and start lifting for them. Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. That at that point, the focus isn't on Jesus; it's on whatever they're trying to lift, or accomplish.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's actually not complicated.
No,
it's
I know.
Really simple.
Well, it's easy for us to say that because we're in this, season in our lives where we're learning all of this. But not too long ago, we were just following idols. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We were blind. We were asleep, and everything was just. We were going in the wrong direction for sure.
Yep.
If that's you, my only advice is when you pray, just beg the Lord to show you what's wrong. Where did I go wrong? It's like, is this an idol for me? Is this, am I following you? Am I following you, my perception of you? Or where did we take like a wrong turn? Where did you and I part ways? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He will show it to you. He will show it to you. I guarantee you. He'll show you where things went wrong because he always does.
Yeah, I think, and that's kind of key. It's like God will never not straighten you out when you want to be straightened out.
Yeah.
The problem is knowing that you need to be straightened out.
Yeah.
Like, I think that people continue in this level of functioning is because they don't know any better. They don't know that they're not following God anymore. They think they are,
Yeah.
And it's like David's like, search my heart and know me, because like clearly there are things in your heart where you're not aware of. You didn't know it was a problem. And like, I can personally attest to that because like half the crap that God's been like correcting me on, I didn't even know was an issue. It just was my normal everyday thing. Like, I'm like, wait, what? I'm prideful? Wait a minute.
That's the whole point of it.
I'm self-righteous?
When you're deceived,
like,
you don't know.
Yeah,
you don't know you're deceived.
Right.
People think that they are not deceived. But that's the whole point of it. Yeah. Like, you are.
Yeah.
Being deceived is not knowing you're deceived. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And it's funny because, I mean, the symptoms of it don't lie. It's like if you're burnt out and you're tired and you're ready to give up and you are not feeling any of the things that you would expect from an area of overflow, then something's wrong with you, you know?
Yeah, look at the fruits.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the fruits and you know the tree. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's...
Yeah.
If the fruits are pain, it's just...
Suffering.
Yeah.
You know.
Like, I know that we're supposed to suffer for Jesus, but that's not the kind of suffering it's talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
But anyway, seems like a good spot to end.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
I know.
I hope that you have now decided to give up your horrible ways and turn to Jesus. No, but I hope that you're encouraged. Like and subscribe. Be a follower of Jesus.
Hit that notification
and
bell.
the Guardrail Podcast. And I hope that you have a great week. Why don't you pray for them, Fa?
Dear Jesus, I just pray that you would open our eyes. Open our eyes and turn our heads toward you. Father, I pray that no ministry be greater than you in our lives, Father. No thing that is in our path, Father, become greater than you. That we don't make idols out of anything, Father. I pray that we will be able to worship you as we are, and we'll be able to recognize who we are and work our way into worshiping you from there, Father. I pray that anyone at the sound of my voice that is in a place that is hurting and they're leading, I pray that first you would just touch them and help to heal them, help to carry the burden, Father. But I also pray that they would be able to identify what's wrong and correct it, Father, and just bring your correction and your love in your hands to lift up that burden and just get rid of it. And that be able to look at you, Father, and delight in you and be able to minister out of that overflow and that relationship with you, Father, not out of religion, not out of their own hands, but out of what comes out from you. Father, in the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. We'll see you again next week.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in.
That's a wrap on episode 25.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
See
All
you,
right.
people.
Bye.
Bye.